Hey there, welcome everyone. This is another episode of WP Product Talk. We keep showing up every Wednesday and talking about WordPress products and what it means to own them and run them, market them, build them, break them, test them, sell them, all the things. And I'm having a lot of fun. Katie, are you having fun? Are you enjoying this so
Yeah,
far?
it's good. Yeah. And talking about all different things and talking to really great people, definitely.
Absolutely. This week, our subject is the impact of free trials on WordPress product business growth in particular. And for that, we reached out to an expert named Chris Badgett. Chris, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here. Can you introduce yourself to the world for us?
Sure. It's great to be here, Matt and Katie. So I'm Chris from LifterLMS, which is a learning management system for WordPress. I'm actually sitting in the chair at a friend's house where I built my first WordPress website in 2008. It's a long story I won't get into, but it's fun to be back here, and the WordPress journey has been quite awesome. But I'm fortunate to be able to be on all sides of WordPress, from a user to an agency owner to a product person. And I'm excited to give as much as I can back to the community today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. And my name is Matt Cromwell, one of the co-founders of GiveWP, and now at Stellar WP, doing customer experience and marketing, and also doing this WP product talk thing. And also have another one. I haven't actually really talked about that, but I have another little podcast called Glam That Plugin, if you've heard of it. I've got one whole episode under my belt there. I need to get a better workflow for that one. But check that one out too. And I've been really excited to have Katie helping out as a co-host. Thanks for being here as always, Katie. Tell the world about yourself.
Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie, co-founder and CEO at Barn2 Plugins. We started as a web agency and switched to selling plugins about 7 years ago now. And I like learning about the business side of selling plugins and how to make them more successful.
Excellent. And as always, if you are here, we love to hear from you. So use the chat. There's a YouTube chat. There's also Twitter, where you can use the hashtag WP Product Talk, and we will be paying attention there and listening, and we'll try to answer questions as much as possible and along the way. But for now, first things first, we want to talk about why is this an important subject for WordPress product owners? Why should anyone care about free trials? Is this actually an opportunity, or is it just a distraction? Let's start with Chris. Chris, what's your thought on free trials and why WordPress product owners should take this subject seriously?
I heard a quote once that the best marketing is a good product. It's embodied awesome. That's the all or nothing kind of statement. There, you need to do a lot of other kinds of marketing too. But just getting people access to your product and experiencing it is super important. There's a couple of different buyer personas similar to learning styles, where some people are visual learners, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic, as an example. And that holds true for buyer behavior as well. A visual buyer might like to see a YouTube demo video. An audio buyer might be listening to this podcast or other podcasts reviewing products. And a kinesthetic buyer likes to, kind of get away from the marketing site, get the tool in their hands and start playing and mess around with it. And that's really where the demo, whether it's free or paid, works. And I'd also just add that I like to go outside of the WordPress community to, expand my marketing and product knowledge. I spent a couple years with Dan Martell in a program called SaaS Academy. He has a great book out right now, new book out called Buy Back Your Time, which is really good for any entrepreneur looking to scale. But he taught me a while back that there's 4 methods to create a conversion on a product. There's a demo, a trial, a webinar, and a proof of concept. And particularly with, demos and trial experiences, we've really found that to be really effective for us here at LifterLMS, as well as webinars as well. So. Yeah, super important.
That's great insight. I really love the way you tackled that question from several different angles. Katie, what's your take? You've done some free trials yourself before.
Yeah, my take in why it's an important topic is more from a business perspective as to will your plugin or theme company be more successful if you have free trials or if you don't? Clearly, it is important for lots of customers. We've always had many requests for free trials before and after we actually did free trials, which we'll get onto in a minute. But the thing is, there's a real lack of data in the WordPress industry. If you look at free trials, you find lots of data and studies about SaaS. And it is fairly well established that free trials do sell SaaS products very well and that people expect them. But with WordPress, there are some differences and also some additional challenges. A lot of WordPress product companies use platforms like Easy Digital Downloads, which do have free trials, but I can say that they are terrible, and you would have to do a lot of custom work to realize the potential benefits of free trials. Because to do a free trial well, you need to really think about the whole customer journey, the email flow, reminding them when the trial is going to end with different emails, depending on whether they've cancelled at that point or whatever. There's a lot of work to be done. And what you get with a platform like Easy Digital Downloads is very, very minimal. You also might need to modify your licensing system to disable the trial, disable the plugin functionality at the end. And with something like EDD, that's very difficult. And we did it, which we'll get onto later, but it's not easy. And it creates these extra challenges. Whereas with SaaS, everything's online. Obviously, it's a hosted service, so you can quickly remove the functionality and you have more control.
Yep.
I know this isn't a universal issue for WordPress because if you use, say, Freemium, they have a very good free trial system built in. So it depends on your setup, but that's an extra challenge. And I've just never really seen any comprehensive study published on free trials in WordPress. I would love to see Freemium do that, to put a nudge out to them, because I think they have the best data on this in the industry, and they are the people to do one of their amazing long blog posts about what their customers have found. But I haven't seen that yet. And I think it's important because we're scrabbling around in the dark with free trials, trying to work out individually what works rather than having shared data.
Absolutely. No, really good insights there. Yeah, I've said this as we were promoting this today that like I don't have a ton of experience with free trials. I have very, very little experience with them. I've been highly skeptical about whether they are beneficial for WordPress products, largely because of the technical burdens that you're highlighting there, Katie. Like, is it worth all of the technical hassle to just get free folks in the door, especially if you are a freemium plugin, for example? You don't need to think about this at all. But if you do want to think about being a premium plugin that offers some sort of free trial situation, then that's an interesting model. The reason why I think it's an important subject overall is I do think that every single product owner has to be very diligent about making sure they get the right product target audience fit. And there are so many different ways to offer your products to your target audience. And this is one of them. And you should take it seriously and figure out whether it is the right model for your audience and for your product. A lot of the hindrances of it are things that Katie was just highlighting. And I do think price point is also a really significant one. If you have like a $49 product, I'm not sure if a free trial is really the best idea. But if you have one that is, up into $149, $199, something that a lot of WordPress product consumers would find a little bit pricier, then you might want to consider this because going from 0 to $199 is a big jump, but going from free to $199 is a little bit different, or going from 0 to free is a lot different. So I just think it's good to do the mental exercise of figuring out whether or not this type of model is good and helpful for your for your product audience fit in particular. Yeah. A little bit of what you were saying there, Chris, about the type of user. What was the term that you used? The one that really likes to do things hands-on. What was that phrase you used there?
Kinesthetic or tactile.
I got to remember that one. Maybe we need to write that down somewhere. Is that in the notes? Did you put that in the show notes?
I haven't put that in the notes yet, but yeah, it's common. Like kids that are restless, like in an in-person classroom, one of the things may be that they're just not a Blackboard visual learner or whatever. They need to, they need to move, they need to manipulate things, but that's kind of geared towards that style.
Yeah, I'm looking for my fidget spinner because that's what those are for. I have one.
And Matt, I want to throw a question out your way. One of the things I found getting into this, I mentioned like a demo, a trial, a proof of concept. I think it's important to define the terms. Like, what do you see when you say free trial? What are you meaning exactly? Like, what does that experience look like? The vanilla version of that.
Was that to me or to Katie? Oh, to me.
Or either one. One. Yeah.
Me personally, I'm always thinking about the WordPress space. And so when I've seen free trials in the WordPress space, it has often meant like a 30-day, like you get to use the premium product for 30 days, and then it's going to be turned off in one form or another. And I do think that, especially in the WordPress space, that type of experience is usually pretty negative from the customer experience perspective. But I understand why they might offer it that way. That's kind of what I've seen in terms of free trials. Like you get the full premium experience, but only for 30 days. And there is a trigger in which those premium features basically get turned off in one form or another.
And what is this negativity you've seen? What examples have you got? What exactly is negative?
Oh, just simply because of it's so different than the rest of the WordPress product experiences that folks have. In many ways, they're like, well, why don't you just give me a free version? Where's the free version? And they don't see one, and then they get upset and bothered. That's kind of the backlash I've seen. And truthfully, I'm trying to even remember some of the products that actually did this. It was a long time ago. It was the... I think it might have been WVMU Dev folks who trialed that for a little bit. I don't want to misstate, but it was a while back. So
I can share some nuance on terms and what we learned at LifterLMS. So when I was working with Dan, I was talking about our free plugin. So similar to WooCommerce, we have a free core plugin, and he was like, "That's your trial." And then there's a demo, which a lot of plugins and themes have, which I'll get into in a second. And then there's an enterprise SaaS sales. There's the proof of concept where like a team goes in and embeds a proof of concept in the company of the implementation. What we figured out is kind of how to combine all three of those, which are all kind of a trial of sorts. So if you have a free core plugin, that in itself is a free plan. It's a trial, but it's kind of like a permanent trial, and it's value adding in its own right. The trial that we have is a little bit of a hybrid of what you're talking about, Matt, in terms of what happens after 30 days, in the sense that what we do is people get a temporary website for 30 days on our server that has, for us, all our premium add-ons and the core plugin installed with a bunch of demo content. So our price point is $1,200 for the full suite of add-ons and everything. But that site that they get on our server allows them to trial or experience what we have. We charge $1 for it. The interesting thing with that one, going back to the idea of the different buyer personality types, many people convert within the first like 40 minutes. So they just needed to trial it and just basically try it on and make sure it does what they want it to do. Integrate. It's open, like they can add other plugins, do whatever they want, but it's on our server. So, I think the big concern with WordPress product companies are, if you did have a free trial on your normal products, after the 30 days, there really is no kill switch. And if you were to put one in there, that could be argued to go against kind of the ethos of WordPress.
Exactly.
So by So by putting the proof of concept, which is where we've in the other term, on our server, they get to trial all our stuff. It's also a demo of our tool itself. That's what we found to really work, and we've done it. We charge it for $1. The dollar is really just to cover the cost of the extra sites that we're doing. I think we're using Server Pilot to do that, but there's a lot of tools like SpinUp WP, InstaWP that can help with that kind of thing if you want to build it. And there's some other companies I've seen doing it in WordPress, both free. I've seen a lot of people doing it for free, but when we tested free against paid, the paid $1 trial ranges between 15 and 25% conversion rate. When we did it for free, we had a 1 to 2% conversion rate.
Yeah.
So that's just interesting. And the other thing there from a user experience standpoint is when they pay the $1, they're essentially putting the credit card on file. We sell our software with WooCommerce. So, with the Stripe and everything, then when they go to make the buying decision, their stuff's already stored. They already have the user. It's a much more friction-free checkout flow. So I just wanted to throw that out there of like, when we think about trial, that's what it is. And you mentioned plugin price point. I might also add, I'd probably lean less towards price point and more towards platform level plugins. So if you have a platform like a donation platform, I think platforms lend themselves to trial even more so, since it's such a big decision for the buyer that, okay, we're gonna use this entire platform for our whole business or a huge chunk of it. That isn't to say that more utility based plugins couldn't benefit from a trial as well, but I think the platform decision or commitment might warrant the demand for a trial even more.
Katie, somebody else mentioned platform plugins. Was it on our show, or maybe that was a different conversation?
I think it was, but I'm trying to think what topic it was part of.
Was it Alex Denning? I don't remember. It was recently, but it's interesting. I feel like that word is going around to describe plugins that kind of are representative of the functionality of the whole site in one form or another, that are a lot more crucial, that you can't have this website without this big foundational plugin like WooCommerce, of course. A lot of people cite Give, or I have heard Give referenced in that type of thing. I push back on it a little bit. Like, honestly, like nonprofit organizations do a lot on their website, and the donation is really often limited to one page of the site. So it's a little bit different, but it's significant. It's important. So interesting. The other thing I would push back on a little bit, I don't love the idea of talking about, of like putting the freemium option, the free plugin, like synonymous with a trial, because trials really are, like, by definition, end. Whereas so many free plugins are not intended to ever end. And the plugin directory moderators in particular are really, really particular about that you can't have what they call crippleware in any way whatsoever on the repo. And even with Give, like, we are really, really dogmatic about the fact that the free plugin is really supposed to give you so much of what you need to do donations. You should be able to really fundraise successfully just with the free plugin alone. That's really important to us, and we don't want anybody thinking of it as a trial in any way whatsoever. But it is the step in the door, is what I hear you also saying, Chris. It's the step in the door towards what we ideally want to sell them eventually. So yeah, there are similarities there, and I love the idea of making sure we're defining terms correctly. But I think in the WordPress space, in terms of what a free trial might mean, like Katie said, we just don't have enough data right now, and not enough people have really done it to really describe what this really is or what functionality is available. I love the idea of what you're saying, of like basically giving them a whole site to play with as the trial. That's your proof of concept idea. I don't know, Katie, how does all that sound to you? Like, how do you receive this idea of like different types of free trials?
Yeah, I think with the viewing a free plugin as a free trial, there are two types of user really. One is the people who don't really want to pay, they're looking for a free plugin. And you're right, it should have a genuine permanent value for them. There's also the more, I don't know, power user who does have some budget and they just want to establish that the product is suitable for them first. And those are the ones that might try the free version temporarily. And that's where your upselling comes in and making it obvious what the premium functionality is that they could upgrade to and so on. So I think you kind of need to cater for both with free plugins, really. It is a sales tool, but for the other group, the first group I mentioned, then that's fine too. Chris, I didn't actually realize that your trials are hosted on your platform and that when they go ahead to become a paying user, they then have to install it on their own website. Do you have any kind of friction from people who have set up kind of a dummy course on the free trial platform and then they have to kind of start again or copy over what they've done on their own site?
Not really, but here's why. And that's because, we build the product around the needs of our customers. So we have, when we felt that friction before, we decided to build a course importer and exporter so they can just literally click one button and suck the course out and put it on their main site and with 2 clicks. So that's that kind of solves that problem. But I do find it really interesting, like in terms of buyer behavior. Some people they're in there for like 20 minutes and then they buy. And then there's other people that almost build the entire website inside the test 30-day site, and it has a giant countdown timer at the top. So they know this is going away, but they
Yeah.
really just want to make sure it's going to work or
Yeah,
whatever.
they were the ones I was worried about, that then they would want to keep it.
We have in the past built a service where we would actually transfer it out and let them keep it. And some people take that offer, but the demand for that wasn't as high as to warrant to continue to invest in building out that idea. But there's definitely something there potentially to, like a service option. Potentially, it just popped into my brain, but like if an outside person wanted to build a business around popular plugins and making it easy for people to trial and then transfer the site over, or the companies themselves, there's probably a there, but we find most WordPress people are, they just kind of want to do it themselves.
Yeah, that's interesting because we were talking, I think yesterday, Chris, about the whole what sorts of plugins are suitable for hosted and talking about how platform plugins, and Matt wasn't even on this call, but we were talking about platforms yesterday and how platform plugins are suitable for that. Maybe that's a good marketing strategy if you ever do that, because you've got the trial people already setting up an LMS on your server.
Yeah, and I think that ties into a like, who are we targeting with the trial? So if we're targeting an agency or a WordPress power user, they may not be that into it. But if we're targeting somebody who's maybe brand new to WordPress and whatever niche we're operating in, whether it's photography sites or LMS or e-commerce or nonprofit, this or that, then that's where that platform play becomes, the hosted platform play becomes, I think, more of a viable option. But that's just that's a challenge to the whole WordPress community in terms of serving the newer new to WordPress market in a better, less friction kind of way.
Yeah, I think what you're also highlighting here is also like this kinesthetic. Is that right? The kinesthetic folks, the hands-on folks. It does cater to those type of folks, and those type of folks are going to be ones who are more familiar with WordPress, who want to get into the admin and want to fiddle and things like that. Because I'm thinking through on Give the different types of ways that we try to appeal to our customers, and we have done several of these things. We have essentially like a demo website that they can go and they can see everything, how the forms look and how form grid works, a donor wall works, all kinds of things. They could see it on the front end. Then we give them the ability to spin up a demo site and log in and check it out. And then we also have a customer success team that will do like a webinar demo with them. We've thrown everything at our folks.
That's the portfolio. That's the way to
yeah.
do it. So you don't
Yeah.
leave anybody out.
But the one that gets the least engagement is the spin up the site and play with it directly. And so I think our customer base, the nonprofit folks, they get like intimidated by like jumping into the WordPress admin. You know what I mean? They're not as kinesthetic. They don't want to get as hands-on. They just want to make sure that the donations are going to work.
Well, that's an experiment. Perhaps
Yeah.
try charging $1 for that for 30 days and see what happens.
Maybe. I mean, when we're offering it for free and they're not doing it, I don't know. I think the chances that they'll do it for $1 are probably less. But and I think that just goes to the whole product target audience fit that I was saying before, is that that type of experience has to work for the folks who you're trying to attract. And I think for nonprofit oriented folks, they love being able to get on a webinar with our team and talk through it and see it demoed for them. They're very much more like show me instead of
visual learners.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we ran a little long on the opening, which is great and fine. Let's jump into story time. Katie, do you want to kick us off with your experiences at Barn 2?
Okay. So for years, I was convinced that free trials were the thing that were going to transform our business. And I wanted them so much. And I'd read the stats about the SaaS industry and thought that we would just get so many more conversions and ultimately paying customers if we introduced free trials. So I set my web guy to work, and he spent ages improving the free trials in Easy Digital's downloads, which we use, which was a big thing. We had to completely redo our licensing system. That wasn't the only reason, but that was part of it, so that we could revoke that functionality at the end. We had to do whole custom email streams, merge tags in emails. There was just tons of custom stuff. As well as customizations to the checkout to clearly display that when the first payment will be taken, and really think about the whole customer journey for the trials. But also, we didn't want to force everybody to do a trial. We were going to give a choice. So we had to do the whole usability side of things about our add to cart buttons and having a trial option and a not trial option without being too complicated, displaying different messaging on the checkout. So there was loads of technical tasks to do. And we did this project and launched the free trials. And we did get a lot more customers. We had a lot of people signing up for the free trial, and that all looked good. But then after a while, when we did the actual analysis of the number of conversions at the end of the trial, we worked out that it was about the same as before. It wasn't significantly measurably worse, but it definitely was not that amazing business transformer that I was expecting. It was roughly the same. And for all that added complexity on our website, it just didn't feel worth it, because there was all the maintenance that would come from it. Just any complexity on our website means more trouble, basically, both now and in the future. And so if we couldn't prove an increase in actual paying customers, then it wasn't worth it. So ultimately, we removed them. And again, we did the analysis 3 or 4 months afterwards. And again, everything was roughly the same. So we had fewer people signing up, but they carried on. Whereas with free trials, you get loads of people, but then most of them drop off. So you end up in about the same place. But I will acknowledge that we are not a platform company. Our plugins add a specific task to your WordPress or WooCommerce website, and maybe it's different for a platform. I remember Chris recommending at the time to do $1 trials, while I was talking to him about our trials aren't working, it's not worth it. But honestly, just the work to do that in EDD after all we'd done, it just felt, no, let's just get rid of them and stop. So I acknowledge I didn't take that advice. So in my experience, there's something different about WordPress, which is different from SaaS, and that maybe it's better to say, have a free plugin, have really good demos, webinars, as you say, or very importantly, a money back guarantee with no questions asked, no risk, and promote that very prominently. And we still have people constantly asking for free trials. And I know that our users want it, but we couldn't justify it given the extra overhead of running it, even though a lot of users wanted it. So instead, we reply and say, we don't have a free trial. And instead, we have a 30-day money back guarantee. So you can try it risk-free and get your money back if you're not happy. And that converts less well than a free trial initially in terms of signups, but overall it seems to be the same.
Nice. That's really informed experience. Thanks for sharing. Chris, how about you?
I just want to echo what Katie says. Like when we look at the terms, a money back guarantee is another version of a trial. Like you're taking the risk away, like try it. I know you're paying, but we'll give you 100% of your money back. Just to be clear on like what we figured out at Lifter after 8 years was we do a $1 trial, which is a website hosted on our servers that has our core plugin installed, 22 add-ons, demo content, and also inside of there is, for us, we're an LMS platform, so we have courses in there. But one of the courses in there is our LifterLMS Quick Start course, which is a video course appealing to the visual learners about like the 10% most important part of the tool that you can learn in 20 minutes. So that's what our trial experience is. And yeah, it's been about 4 years that we've had that. On average, it converts around 18%. And like Katie mentioned also, if you're going to do it, I think it's important to go all the way. Like it was David Vogelpohl who he made a comment once that, the most annoying problem in WordPress is like the setup. So if like you get all excited, there's a fancy demo on the product website, and then you install the theme or the plugin and there's like nothing there. So a trial, my recommendation is don't do like the blank, empty, underwhelming experience. You want to have mic drop moments. So for us, by having all the tech and friction out of the way, strong demo content, they get that mic drop moment. Even though it's on our servers, they can't take it with them. I mean, they can take some courses and stuff with them if they want, but like Katie said, like, the thought of going back and doing it for $1, and where I'm at now as an example is, you know what, we need a trial for every use case. And you know what, there's 13 different LMS use cases that the way I see people use the platform. That's a lot of work to create and maintain 13 different use cases. Will we go there? I don't know if we'll get there, but it's a huge commitment to do the kind of trial I described well. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to try it, like really, really make sure you go all the way.
That's really good input too. I love that too, because I think in some ways, there is the allure of Freemius, for example, that they offer this functionality built into their platform. And I think it's easy to think, well, I'll just spin up some free trials with Freemius and see how it goes. But I think what you're saying is like, well, just because the functionality is there doesn't mean that you've done it correctly or well. Just because it offers that functionality for you doesn't mean that you're actually serving your customers or your pre-sales folks' needs correctly. I think that definitely takes work. I think on my story time side of things, since Chris is kind of expanding the subject a little bit, I would have to say, by defining the term of free trial as anything that somebody can get their hands on for free, that I would say that like our customer success team at Give is just top notch and goes above and beyond to really provide all the different ways that folks can be as informed about their purchase as possible. Because like Katie said, the 30-day money back guarantee is really important to us. And the way that we try to minimize those refunds is by trying to educate our pre-sales folks as much as possible before they pull the trigger. I really like that experience a lot more than just like sell, and then refund, refund, which I see a lot of folks lean on that a bit more. But like I said, we have a demo site, a full demo site where folks can go and see things. They do sign up with an email opt-in for the WordPress admin demo, which we're currently using WP Sandbox for that. And then we also give them the opportunity to jump on a one-on-one webinar demo with our customer success team. And sometimes we do like team demos as well, like a group of folks all together. And I will say that the one-on-one demos are the ones that definitely convert the highest because they're on a Zoom with the expert, and we get to answer their questions live on the call. We do keep those really to 30 minutes and no more, just for time's sake and things like that. It's expensive in terms of like time spent for sure, but in my mind, it goes towards what Chris was saying about like if you're going to do this, do it right. And that's kind of, we went all in on all of those different ways to make sure folks were educated on what they're getting into. That's the other one that I do have is only exposure through James Kemp with Iconic. James also experimented a lot with free trials early on. And my impression, he had already expired them before I came on and started helping with Iconic work. And my impression from just the data was that I don't see a lot of difference here between basically top of funnel email opt-ins and these free trial folks, because the effort is very, very similar. Like as soon as they get their hands on the product, we have their email address. We need to try to get them to have success right away. And if we're not working after that point, then they're not going to convert. And I actually just have a lot more experience and success with email automation after folks get in at top of funnel and trying to sell folks that way. And so I was like, rather than go back to free trials, I'd much rather just like educate folks and give them an email automation because those typically convert between 5 and 10% rather than like a 1 or 2% from what I've seen. So that's just info that I've been exposed to, but that's all James's work, really. So
yeah, I remember when he stopped doing them, he had exactly the same data as us. It just didn't make any difference. But then his company profile is very similar to us in terms of the type of products. So that it might be different for other types of WordPress products.
Yeah. And in the WooCommerce space, a lot of folks are used to just installing a free plugin and trying it out. So they kick the tires for a little while and then they decide they like it or they don't. And that's probably what you're getting there on those free trial folks too. So. Good stuff. Cool. Well, we are about 5 minutes out. And last one we want to wrap up with is the best advice for new plugin shop owners. What is your best advice for folks who are considering free trials for their product? Whether it's like that they've already launched and they're just trying to get some traction, or maybe they're just considering launching for the first time. What is your advice for them? Chris, what do you got?
My best advice, and this can apply to a lot of things, not just trials, is to put your customer at the center of your business, not your product. So when you know your customer really well and you think about a trial as an example, another word for trial is test drive. I like to go to the offline world and look for similarities to, analog problems that we can apply in the digital world. So if somebody's going to test drive a vehicle before they buy it or lease it or whatever, what needs to happen? And like, the way people approach buying decisions are different. One of my favorite quotes is, "We don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are." So if you happen to be somebody who's a visual person or a tactile person or an auditory person or whatever. There's so many different types of buyers out there. Some people are scanners and you need to have bullet points and people need to be able to jump around really quick. Some people will read every page of your documentation, do the trial, watch every video on your YouTube channel, and then make a buying decision. So there's so many different ways that people buy. So just have an open mind around about your target market. You may have an ideal customer profile or avatar, but there's going to be some variability in terms of content consumption style and buying behavior. So study those things so that and try to appeal to people that are different from how you like to buy. If you're a plugin person or a WordPress person, you may be pretty tactile and like to get your hands into things, and you're really comfortable with like a 30-day refund policy or whatever. But not everybody is the same. So kind of have something for everybody.
Nice. Excellent. Katie, what's your advice?
My advice would be to try and experiment with different things. So think about what would appeal to your type of customer for your type of product. And if a free trial is part of that, the free trial in the sense that you sign up for something and then it's taken away, then by all means try it, but make sure you really think about how you're going to get the data you need to analyze it, and probably if you've already started, then get the data before you start, get your benchmark, and then do it and test again. And then you can make an informed decision, because a lot of people just switch on free trials and say, oh, well, yes, I've always done free trials, but they don't know if it's worth it. And then when maybe they eventually do get rid of them, they might be surprised. Or vice versa, they may have not had free trials for ages and then they add them and they're amazed at the result. So try several different things and get data to justify it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Absolutely. Yeah, for me, I think overall, my advice is really to beat up this question as much as you can and recognize that free trials are not a strategy; they're a tactic. They're one point in the pre-sale journey, and they represent several points. There's the whole discovery, which happens before the free trial happens. There comes opting into the free trial. There comes what they're doing while they're trialing. Then there's the expiration or the purchase, and then there's what happens afterwards. All of those points are significant in the free trial experience, and they all have to have strategy behind them in terms of how you're going to interact with your customers along that way to nurture them and get them to your final goal as much as possible. So don't think of it as a silver bullet or as like, I'll just turn on free, like Katie was just saying. You don't just turn it on. You got to have a strategy for all of those points along the way. And I would really think heavily about first impressions. If you are a new plugin owner and you're about to go to market for the first time, is free trials the best first impression of your product? It's possible it could be, like the way that Chris is talking about. But you're going to have to be really intentional about that, and you're going to have to do it right. So don't just think of it as a simple thing. Think about it in terms of, is this going to give the best impression of my product to help people get onboarded to my goal, and beat up all of those points along the way, and don't just think about it in terms of turning on and off and whatnot. So good stuff. Any other thoughts, comments? Chris, did we cover everything? I'm sure I feel like every time I ask Chris a question, there's a wealth of things that come out. So we are wrapping up, but I'd love to hear if we missed something. Is there any other points?
I think we really covered it.
Nice. Katie, anything else?
No, I don't think so. But I like what you said about the whole, is it the best, or both of you, about is it the best way to showcase your product? Because a lot of plugins you just install and then nothing happens. And they don't know necessarily where the settings page is. There may not be a setup wizard or onboarding anything to get them started. So if the free trial's like that, you install, activate, and then you're lost, you're very likely to cancel. So unless that whole onboarding thing is in place, then there's not much point in the free trial, really.
Absolutely.
I just want to
Nice.
echo what Katie said, that the setup wizard is a great point. Like that's a big opportunity it's really part of that test drive for a lot of people. If they can't go from 0 to what we call activated in the product creation world, they're likely to churn or refund.
Yep. Or just walk away and you never hear from them again. So,
Yeah.
absolutely. Great stuff. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for being here. Next week, Katie is on vacation. So we're going to miss Katie. But we're going to bring on my longtime friend and partner, Devin Walker, and I. We're going to be here. And we're bringing on also Justin Ferryman, who Chris actually knows pretty well. Built a LearnDash, which is one of the competitors to LifterLMS. We're going to be talking next week about building in public, why and how and all that kind of thing. I'm excited to bring both of those guys on. Of course, Devin, my longtime friend and partner in crime in WordPress, and talking about building in public, which I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler. Devin and I are going to start building in public very, very soon. And that's kind of part of why we want to do this next week as well. So tune in next week, Wednesday. And everyone have a good time. Thanks so much for being here.